And welcome into Real Deal Sports Talk with KP. It's November 7th, 2019. It's the first time I'm getting at y'all in the month of November. I can see 2020 on the horizon. I don't know about you guys, but at work, I'm already at the point where I'm making preparations for 2020. I've got final preparations going in for this year. I'm already looking into January and things that are going to be coming down the line. It's crazy. It's crazy that we're to the point already that, I mean, the old adage of the days are long, but the years are short. And you think about it, it's so true, but you don't notice it until you have enough years, until you have enough experience to look back on it and go, holy crap. Like when you're a kid, I think back on it like now, reflecting, right, reminiscing. People call it the good times, best time of their life, different periods, 20s, teens. But think about when you were a kid. You always got to watch your cartoons. All your cartoon shows you watched. You were always outside playing with your friends. You were always doing this. You were always doing that. You were always playing video games. That word was like synonymous with the thought pattern of a kid. Like, I have all of this time. And it doesn't ever seem to go away. And that's what it felt like for me. Like, it felt like I would go on these adventures, and I lived right on the Plains Conservation Center on the edge of Aurora. So you walked out my backyard, walked to the end of the street, turned the corner, and walked to the end of the block, and there was nothing but grassland. Nothing. All the way pretty much till Kansas. Yes, there's towns between Aurora and Kansas, but face it, it's pretty much grassland from there on. There was no C-470. It was Buckley Air Force Base right next to the Plains Conservation Center. And we'd go on these walks, be miles long, be gone all day. Still, had the cartoon time in the morning. I was always in athletics. I mean, it's crazy to think about because now I sit here and I'm like, okay, here we are. It's almost 2020. It doesn't feel like it's November. It feels like, I don't know, April, June maybe. But here we are sitting early November. And luckily we're here to talk about sports and not our day-to-days and our childhoods and all the reminiscing type stuff. Put that aside. Just had me thinking today once again on that topic, and introduction-wise, we ended up talking about it. But we are going to talk about some fights today. We're going to talk about why I love sports, number 15. We're going to talk about some sports crossing into politics again, because this week I was told this story's fake news. So let's discuss that a little bit. We're going to check in on some of the crazy stuff and where teams are sitting at the NBA right now. Giannis is playing out of his mind. LeBron's looking crazy in year 17. What's the kid in Memphis? I can't remember his name. Starts with an M. Anyway, that kid's matching scoring records and shooting percentages that haven't happened for a rookie since, I think, Jordan. We've got talks of realignment and moving to London, what was and what will be in the NFL from weeks 9 and 10. And then, of course, we had two pretty amazing fights take place this weekend. We'll start with the UFC fight. We'll start with the fight for the BFN title. Baddest motherfucking title, right? That's what we all think it stands for. That's what we want it to stand for. And you've got Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal. Now, this was a slugfest. Nate Diaz, I 100% expected to win this fight. I thought it'd be bloody. I thought it would go the full length. I did not think there'd be a TKO. I did not think there would be a doctor stoppage because of the name of the title. Because you've got The Rock there, the celebrity appearance, right? Nate Diaz gets busted open. Gets busted open pretty good. He's been busted open there recently in some of his fights, so I'm wondering if that scar tissue is going to be a problem for him moving forward. Because I like Nate Diaz. He is one of my favorite fighters of all time. Not because he's so dominant, but he is a fighter. He is scrappy. He is good at jiu-jitsu and stand-up, and he can take a punch, and he's tough, and he backs it up, and he talks a good game that sometimes is just entertaining. But he gets caught. He gets busted open. Doctor decides to call it. I don't think that should have been an option in a fight where you're supposed to walk away as the baddest motherfucker. If you get busted open and you're still going and you somehow manage to win that fight, doesn't that make you the baddest? Like, what's the baddest about sitting there with your little Tony Montana suit on, eating a piece of pizza, talking crap after your fight because the doctor stopped it? Not because you took it, not because you won, not because you totally beat the opponent, but because the doctor was saving the opponent from himself in the baddest motherfucker title. And you see it on The Rock's face as he's coming in to give Masvidal the title. He looks a little disappointed. Like, what are you celebrating for? Like, you were given a title. Not to take anything away with him. He still landed the punches that busted him open. But that, to me, is a fight that you can't stop. You can't have a title that has that idea of a name to it, or the literal name to it, and stop the fight. That's got to end with a knockout or a submission or decision, but not... Really, you can't even let it end in a decision. That's the title that would have worked perfect in the original UFC. In fact, that should have been the name of the original UFC title. Back when there were no weight classes, it didn't matter how big or small you were. It was one tournament. If you made it through, you truly were the ultimate fighting champion, which would have made you the baddest motherfucker. Nate Diaz wants another shot. He instantly said, I'm coming back for you. Masvidal's like, okay, yeah, I want to do this boxing thing. Conor McGregor doesn't want none of this. I want to fight the winner of this thing. I mean, it feels like dude's going to get tore up in his next fight. I know he's had a good career to this point. He's making waves. But this feels like instantly went to dude's head. So we'll see when he fights again. We'll see how he performs in his next one. And we'll have to see how that right eye heals for Nate Diaz. And if that scar tissue gets opened up and he fights again and it opens up in the same spot, what that ends up meaning for his career moving forward. Because it could mean the end. When fighters get busted open and they're in a spot where the refs, stopping the fights for them, or the doctor's stopping the fights for them, it's going to be hard to find an opponent. Because they're going to be worried they're not going to get the money. They're not going to get enough pay-per-view views. They're not going to get enough this and that. Because you're not going to go enough rounds. It's not going to be a good enough fight. That eye's going to pop open again, and the fight's going to get called. So guys aren't going to want to take on that fight. So I hope it takes. I hope the stitches work. I hope he heals well. I hope he comes back and gets another shot. Again, I love watching Nate Diaz. One of my favorite fighters of all time. I have traditional fighters that I like as well. Muhammad Ali. I enjoyed Mike Tyson in his prime till everything went sour. Roy Jones Jr. I enjoyed watching. I enjoy watching tape of Marvin Hagler and Sugar Ray Leonard and Joe Johnson. Watching his tape. Rocky Marciano. I never got to see those guys, so it's not as strong as a feeling as when I got to watch Tyson or I got to watch Roy Jones Jr. I'm not a big Oscar De La Hoya fan. I'm not a big Golden Boy Productions or whatever his little Golden Boy Promotions is. It's huge. It pretty much runs boxing now. And it had obviously a huge presence in the Canelo-Kovalev fight this weekend, which was also a huge fight. Everybody who's big into boxing knows both of these guys. I'm not big into them, but I know the names. I haven't really been big into boxing since the heavyweight division kind of fell off. It's a little more interesting now with, Diaz doing what he did to Joshua and Wilder and Fury, if he's not going to be a WWF gimmick. And then who's the Cuban cat that Wilder's getting ready to fight again? I'm forgetting names today, y'all. Um, hmm. Anyway, he's a beast too. But you've got this Canelo Kovalev fight. Canelo, he wins. He's going to be sitting at four titles in different weight classes. Kovalev wins, kind of asserts his spot in history a little more, getting that title. Well, Canelo gets it. 11th round knockout. He did struggle with Kovalev's length and jab a little bit. I'm not going to lie, I've been reading reports trying to figure out what I was going to say about this fight outside of I enjoyed it. I watched a feed of the fight, and it was a good fight. I mean, there was points I didn't think Canelo was going to win the fight. There was points I did think Canelo was going to win the fight. I thought it could be a draw, honestly, because of the issues Canelo was having, but he pulled it out. I mean, you look at the stats, if you want to go to the CompuBox stats, total thrown punches, Kovalev landed 39%, 133 out of 345. Kovalev landed 15, Canelo landed 39%. Kovalev landed 15% of his punches. He threw 745, throwing a lot of those jabs, keeping them away, trying to be, the statistician, the statistician. Only landed 115 punches. So not a lot of difference in the punches landed, but a lot of difference in how many thrown. And if you've ever thrown a lot of punches, if you've ever tried to throw 10 punches on a punching bag, 20 punches on a punching bag, you throw 745 punches. Like, go right now and stand up. Make sure you got enough room to swing your arm around. Swing your arm around and count 745 times. Just swing it. It ain't got to be hard. It ain't got to be fast. Not like you're throwing a punch. Just swing your arm in a circle 745 times and see how tired your arm is. If you want to do half on each side because, he didn't throw all of his punches with one, by all means, do that. See how tired both of your arms are. Threw a lot of punches. Only landed 63 of his jabs out of the 577 that he threw. Canelo landed 104 power punches. Almost 50% of the power punches he threw, he landed. 217 he threw. Kovalev did much better on his power punches. 52 out of 168 for 31%. So I'm telling you, it was a good fight. I mean, Kovalev was doing what he had to try and keep Canelo at bay and get points to try and win that fight. It just didn't work out. It got to the 11th round. His punches probably didn't have anything on them anymore. And Canelo gets that title. He becomes, I think, the fourth Mexican fighter to hold titles in 4 different weight classes. Great fighters make great fights, and that's what we saw this weekend in both of those fights, both of those leagues. Now we saw some greatness in week 9. We saw some not so great in week 9. We saw some wow in week 9. And we're going to have some of that in week 10. In week 9, I tell you what, I don't know how you guys have been doing. If you're in a pick'em league, picking the games each week, I'm sitting like at 60% right now. It has not been a great go for me this season picking games. Normally I'm sitting in that 12 to 14 games right per week type range. This year I'm sitting in that 9 to 11 games per week type range. So it's been a crazy season. 49ers over the Cardinals. That one had me pumping a little bit. 49ers short week. Arizona wanting to prove something. That defense was playing hard. Budda Baker was flying around like a crazy man. Terrell Suggs gets hurt on that side of the field for the Cardinals. Isabella has that crazy, 90-something, 80-something yard touchdown catch. Going over to the right sideline, cuts all the way back across the field, then back up the middle, then a little bit back to the right side of the field again. Good game there, but I'm sure it had some people's hearts pounding. Texans beat the Jaguars, which was to be expected. The Eagles over the Bears, everybody kind of thought that. Steelers beat the Colts. That was a wow game. Now, I know the Colts aren't a top 10 team. Not really. They're a top 15 team probably right now, for sure. But they're not really a top 10 team. But I'm sure most people thought the Colts coming into this game with the way they were able to move the ball methodically, control the clock, use the run game, their offensive line. The defense has been flying around a little bit. Justin Houston had a little resurgence, in his pass rushing ability. It kind of felt like the Colts had this one in the bag, and maybe they thought that. And then, Brissett gets hurt, Hoyer comes in, Steelers kind of get on a roll, a couple things happen. Dolphins get over on the Jets. They are no longer winless. Chiefs beat the Vikings. Matt Moore picks up that win. Panthers over the Titans. That could be expected. Buffalo all over Washington. Washington is struggling. Trent Williams on the non-injury football list. We're hearing the reports from his camp. We're hearing the reports from Washington's camp. You talk about this lump on his head being misdiagnosed. We see what the Jets doctors did with Kelechi Osemele. These teams need to tighten up these doctors. You already are responsible legally for CTE and the head concussion issues that were not properly educated to the players, to the public. It was hidden. It was, tried to make it go away. You're already legally responsible for that. Now you've got these various players in different teams, different organizations having problems with the team doctors. You got the opioid thing where so many players were being given so many opioids by these team doctors and creating addiction. So this is a system that's broken in the NFL. It needs to be looked at. His season's now over, still under contract with the team for another year. So we'll see what happens come March when the new league year opens with Trent Williams in Washington. But, if he ends up sitting out next year because he doesn't want to play for Washington, a 34-year-old offensive lineman who hasn't played in 2 years isn't going to have many options. So it's going to be interesting how that works out. The Buccaneers gave Seattle everything they could take going into overtime in this game. Seattle does pull it out 40-34, but at one point it looked like the Buccaneers was going to get them. Seattle had to come back. Detroit, once again, can't get out of their own way, loses to the Raiders. That defense has no D in it. They are now the E-fence. They've got no D in Detroit. What are they, 31st in defense? Look, Stafford is having an MVP quality season. If there was a running game, if that defense could stop anybody from doing anything, he would be in the talks easily with Russell Wilson, Christian McCaffrey, who in my opinion is the MVP right now, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Patrick Mahomes is thrown in there even though he's been out 2 games. But Stafford would be right there in that conversation, again, if this team had something around him. Green Bay gets blown out of the water by the San Diego Chargers. If that doesn't get this team going, if the fact that they are now being talked about as a team that can be shopped around to other countries doesn't get them going, they're not going to be nothing but, they're the Chargers. This is a team that after what they did last year, we thought they'd at least be that good this year. Maybe they step back to 11-5. But the way they started the season so slow, they find themselves in the hole, but they come out against the Packers and bam, put it on them. We've got no home fans. We've got a soccer stadium for our home digs. We're the second fiddle in this city because the Rams were so exciting, because the Rams were here more recently, because nobody remembers our one season in LA when we first started here to welcome us back. But they get it. They win this week. Maybe they go on a run. They've got the talent to do it. Melvin Gordon's now getting into shape. They're going to be able to utilize him more. That defense is getting faster, more aggressive. Derwin James could be coming back after their bye to play the Broncos. Who beat the Browns? Swag Pound. They can't figure it out. Maybe they're going to trade Odell Beckham now if it doesn't get better. Yeah, because that's the problem. It's not the fact they have the talent, but the coach is no good. Yeah, the coach is good buddies with Baker Mayfield as his quarterback coach last year. But he's clearly can't carry Hugh Jackson's boots as a head coach. And he shouldn't be a play caller because he's not doing good at that either. This team is frustrated. They are talented. They're getting another talented player back in Kareem Hunt now that they have to somehow get into the mix and the fold. Who's going to be a nice spell to Nick Chubb. Do they need to rely on that running game more? Go to some more play action, some more bootleg passing? Get Baker out of the pocket a little bit. Let him see some throwing lanes a little better. Somehow get him to trust Odell Beckham. Throw it up over the top. He had Chris Harris beat last week for a touchdown. Had Baker just thrown it up over the top and laid it out in front of him. Odell's going to go get it. He will jump. Let his catch radius help you. You've built that trust with Jarvis Landry because he was there in the offseason. You see it. You trust the receivers more than you're trusting Odell Beckham right now. Teams are queuing in on Chubb and daring you to beat them in the passing game. You've put up 40 points on the Ravens, and they came out and beat the Patriots and made the Patriots look silly. But now you got beat by Denver. So if Denver beat Cleveland, but Cleveland beat the Ravens, but the Ravens beat the Patriots, does that mean Denver's the best team in the AFC? Hell no. It means the Browns need to start playing better. Denver can play better than they have been. The Ravens are something to mess with. And the Patriots aren't going undefeated. That's all that means. And the Ravens put it on them. 37-20, and it really wasn't that close. First quarterback 24 years or younger to beat Bill Belichick in the Tom Brady era. Or maybe ever. I know for sure in the Tom Brady era. He's picking linemen up off the ground. He's congratulating everybody. He has a higher passing percentage inside the pocket this year than outside of the pocket. And so many people wanted him to be a wide receiver. He couldn't play quarterback. Wasn't going to fit the position in the NFL. I've been saying it. I had him and Baker Mayfield only as quarterbacks I'd be willing to take in the first round of that year's draft. This guy was Michael Vick, but taller. And we're seeing it on the field. He's going to rush for 1,000 yards this year. He's going to pass for over 3,000 yards this year. There's a chance he rushes for 1,200 yards this year and passes for over 3,000 yards, which has never been done. He will be the first, and he's going to start setting all kinds of records like that as long as he's healthy. He makes RG3 look like a poor man's version of himself. It's impressive. He put his mind to it in the offseason, and you can see all of the ways he got better. He has taken the coaching, he has taken the knowledge, and he has run with it. Cowboys and Giants, that was close for a couple minutes, and then the Cowboys came back in the second half and said, okay, we're going to play a full game. And they beat the Giants up in the second half. Good game, though. I mean, if you're a Cowboys fan, you thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, this week's picks, got to get them in. We got a game here tonight. We got the Chargers and the Raiders tonight. I'm taking the Chargers to beat the Raiders tonight. I think the Chargers pulled to 5-5. I think the Chargers still have the ability to finish somewhere between 9-7, 10-6, and be in that wild card conversation. But it starts by beating Oakland tonight, who's 4-4. I will take Baltimore to get in Cincinnati's ass this week. They dropped the quarterback on his birthday in Dalton. AJ Green's now out indefinitely. I think he wants out of Cincinnati. I think Cleveland is going to surprise everybody this week and beat Buffalo. I'll take Cleveland this week. It just seems like that's what happens with Cleveland this season. You beat a team like Baltimore in Baltimore the way you did, then you lose to a team like Denver. Okay, well, here's Buffalo. Here's a team that good record, solid defense, offense doesn't make much mistakes. But I'll take Cleveland to win this week. I'm taking definitely New Orleans over Atlanta. I will take Detroit to beat Chicago. I think the Giants win the Battle of New York and beat the Jets at MetLife. The Battle of MetLife, let's call it, because Buffalo's not involved in this game. The Battle of MetLife, I think the Giants win. I think Saquon is probably the reason why they win. I'll take Kyler Murray to beat Tampa Bay, Arizona over Tampa Bay this week. I think Kansas City beats Tennessee. Patrick Mahomes practicing, but still taking the second reps. So we'll see if he plays this week. I think it's probably good if he sits out one more week. I think Kansas City will be fine this week with Matt Moore against Tennessee. I think Indianapolis bounces back this week and beats Miami, whether they start Brian Hoyer or if Jacoby Brissett's able to go. He's also practicing this week. The Rams I will take over Pittsburgh. I think Green Bay, unfortunately, gets all over Christian McCaffrey in Carolina this week. They've got definitely a chip on their shoulder from losing to the Chargers last week. And again, Christian McCaffrey, he's having an unbelievable season. He's right on par with Chris Johnson's numbers, and really close to being on par with his record-setting numbers from his MVP season for total yardage from scrimmage. He's on par with LaDainian Tomlinson's numbers from his MVP season. All the media wants to talk about, and what I keep hearing over and over is quarterback. Yes, they touch the ball more often than any other player on the field outside of the center, who can affect the game just about as much as anybody can. Screw up your job and let the next center in, and he screws up his. I mean, the centers could really just throw an entire game if they wanted to. But the rhetoric is quarterback, pass-driven league. You take Christian McCaffrey off of this Panthers team. Okay, take him off the team, give him average NFL running back. Top 32 guy, but average NFL running back. They're not 5-3. They're probably 3-5. In my opinion, the production you're getting out of him on that team, passing game, running game, blocking, the leadership he's providing on that offense right now, outside of Greg Olsen, he's the MVP frontrunner, in my opinion, right now. Russell Wilson, amazing season. He's the second on my list. If I had to pick a quarterback to say this is the MVP, it would be Russell Wilson right now for sure. I'm taking Seattle to upset San Francisco. No teams go undefeated this year, and Seattle moves one game closer to San Francisco in the NFC West. And then I think Dallas runs the ball, controls the clock. The defense is going to make a couple plays against Kirk Cousins in a close game, but I'll take Dallas to beat Minnesota on Sunday night. So that's week 10. That's what was, that's what will be. Now, also on the slate this week, on the rumor mill, on the social media, we hear this idea that NFL owners have been talking about the possibility of the Chargers being the team that moves to London, about the possibility of waiving the relocation fee of $650 million or postponing it. We hear Spanos from the Chargers, the owner, coming out and, fuck this, fuck that. We're not fucking moving to London. We got a stadium open in Los Angeles. We're staying right here. That's a lot of talk. That's what he should be saying, unless he really just wanted to move the team again. I don't think the problem is this market in LA is oversaturated. I think they're waiting for that Chargers team to be a winner. They know that squad. They're still in California. They still saw Chargers games. They know this is a team that's always right there. That's always kind of good. That's not exciting. If the Chargers were to win and get into an AFC championship game or get into a Super Bowl, they would be embraced in that sports market. But that sports market knows who the Chargers are. And the Chargers are doing exactly that this season. You've got to go out and earn the support when you change cities. The Rams had an exciting team. They came in flying 55 points, 40 points, 35 points. Excitement. Players like Todd Gurley, Aaron Donald. Big names, excitement. The Chargers didn't have that. Now they've got it, but they're not consistent. So again, it's like, yeah, it's the Chargers. Let's go do something else. You've got to earn. I mean, look at the Clippers. Should they have left L.A.? No. Now they're sitting there with Kawhi, Paul George. But the Chargers to London. And then that would, and you know, I heard the original report coming out of The Athletic. And it would have to come with possible realignment. The only one scenario that makes sense to me is if the Chargers go to the AFC East. It would affect the East, the West, and the South. Because with the Chargers going to the East, you would then move the East would end up being Miami, New England, Buffalo, and the Chargers. Why am I drawing a blank on the division right now? The Jets. The Jets would move. No, Miami would move to the South. So it would be the Jets, the Patriots, the Bills, and the Chargers. Miami would move to the AFC South, and then Houston would move to the AFC West. That's the only one that I really agree with as far as if there's going to be a realignment, because that would make sense. But then you're talking about adding weeks to the season, because now you're having overseas travel. You're a lot more plane travel. Those guys are going to need a break after that kind of a trip. So they're pushing a 17-game schedule. They're floating this idea out there. But 17-game schedule, you add a team in London, 17 games over what? 20 weeks? 22 weeks? You've got to throw in a neutral site game somewhere if it's a 17-week schedule, because you can't give, again, one team 9 home games and another team 8 home games. And all of this, by no means, don't get it wrong, all of this is driven by money. All of it. It's not even close what they're looking for. It's not for more competitive. It's not for the fans. It's not for anything but making more money. And it'd be cool if the world champions of the NFL were world champions. But this is not a game that has been adopted all over the world, and that's easy for other countries to pick up and have the equipment for. And it's not like basketball. It's not like baseball or gymnastics or, there's a lot of countries with hockey, which is more similar as far as, there's even more equipment in hockey. There's not a lot of equipment in the NBA. Now the NBA is off to a great season. Giannis has got, 200 points, 100 rebounds, and 50 assists or something in the first 8 games. Never been done before. LeBron's going for triple-doubles. Look at Luka Donovan. He is killing it for Dallas. He was a league MVP before he got drafted from his EuroLeague. He's going to be a league MVP at some point in the NBA. This kid he is a baller. He is fun to watch. He's averaging close to a triple-double with 27-point-something points, 9-point-something rebounds, 9-point-something assists, 46%, he's crazy balling. And there's rumors that, hey, maybe they get a Chris Paul in there. Go ahead. Let's throw Chris Paul in there. Let's see what he's got, because he'll have some talent there around him with Luka, with a Kristaps. You've got this story coming out talking about Kawhi and his rest days. Michael Jordan talking about you get paid to play 82 games. You look at the stats, you look at some of the nonsense with Kawhi. And face it, I said a couple years ago he was going to be the next best player to LeBron. Then he got hurt. I kind of questioned it a little bit. He did his thing last year with the Raptors. Dude only plays like less than 75% of the time. He's playing like 30 minutes a night out of a 48-minute game. He's taken back-to-backs off. He's played 6 out of 8 games this year or something. So he's already missed a couple games this year. So he's not playing a ton of minutes in any game. Yes, he's efficient. That's great. But how much better could you be with the money you're paying him if you got 40 out of 48 minutes? I can't call you the best player on the planet, even if you're that efficient and you're putting up those kind of points and making that kind of an impact, when you don't play enough. When in his 17th season, LeBron James is still putting up triple-doubles, still putting up over 30, still leading the team, still leading the league in assists with over 11 per. I'm sorry, LeBron still got that crown. You can't get the crown by not showing up, but 70%, 75% of the time. And that's what we're getting from a guy with the greatness of Kawhi Leonard on both ends of the floor. And we've got that back from LeBron this year, playing defense, off the ball and on the ball. Healthy again. James Harden's still scoring machine. Over 36 per game. Andre Drummond's having a crazy beginning to the year. Multiple 20 and 20 games. Carrying that team. Blake Griffin hasn't seen the court yet. 18 rebounds per game. He's had a couple where he's only had 12. But he's killing it. Anthony Davis, 3 blocks per game. Dwight Howard's in the top 10 as well. Both guys on the same team. Dwight Howard's having a good season in his role for the Lakers. In fact, it looks like if he was in that role, with that mindset since his dominant days in Orlando, he probably never would have been thought of as a joke. He might not have been categorized as the team wrecker, as the locker room pariah. Like I said, LeBron James leading the league in assists at over 11 per. Ben Simmons leading the league in steals. 3 per. Some good basketball. Lakers' best record in the league. Boston Celtics leading the Eastern Conference at 5-1. Milwaukee 6-2. Miami 5-2. Philadelphia 5-2. Toronto 5-2. I'm surprised by Toronto. I thought they'd take a step back. I really, really did. Lakers at 6-1. One more win than the Celtics. Dallas at 5, and then everybody else is 5 and something in the pretty much until you get to the Spurs at 4-3, and that's the 8th seed. Dallas 5-2, Denver 5-2. Devontae Booker with the Suns, he's playing great at the beginning of the season. They're 5-2. Clippers 5-3. The games they've lost are the games Kawhi doesn't play. No Paul George. Utah 5-3. They're still finding their way, but they're going to be trouble. Houston 5-3. Blazers are 3-4. They started out slow last year, but I expect them to pick it up. Golden State, without all their talent, they're down to 2-6. Pelicans finally won a game. They're 1-6. The Knicks 1-7. So it's early, but as many of you are, I'm glad basketball's back. Basketball's back at the same time. Baseball's gone. This is a little story, but I was told it was fake news, and I don't feel like it's fake news. We saw the video. I didn't see any extra video of Strasburg coming back and paying 45 respect and shaking his hand in any way. But we saw the video of World Series MVP Strasburg appearing to snub 45. He puts his hand out. Strasburg kind of nods his head and goes to the person to the right. Now, at the same time, same event, Nats catcher Kurt Suzuki, he puts on the mega hat and, gets double-fisted breast hug from 45. So you've got both sides of the equation right there on one team, which made 45 feel great, I'm sure. They made plans to go to the LSU and Alabama game because they're going to try and get cheered at that event. They've been booed at multiple sporting events. They've been turned down by multiple teams to come to the White House and participate in that event. College teams are coming. But these professional teams, by and large, a lot of players don't go anymore. They don't want to be involved in that. So we see him booed at the UFC event. We see him booed at the World Series. We see him, Strasburg. Strasburg looks like he's leaving. He's done. I got the World Series MVP. I got my ring. I've opted out of my deal. Somebody's going to pay me, and I'm going somewhere else. He does not want to be in Washington. I don't think he wants to be around that political environment anymore and what's going on in D.C. Now, I'm speculating. I'm just theorizing here. But, I mean, you're going to snub the guy. You're going to show up. You're on camera. You opt out of your contract the day before. Day before that, you got the World Series MVP. Like, dude seems like he's content. He's going to move on, too. This was the Nats' year. Next year, Scherzer, you're going to be the guy. You're not going to have as much talent there unless you can go get a Garrett Cole or one of these other top guys who's out there because they want to, keep that train going. So the reason I think this is kind of a story is because it's something sports and politics have been blending so much. This is a guy who's been booed at multiple sporting events. He got an athlete to put the hat on. He had another athlete on the same team snub him. He's trying to go to another event in the South so that hopefully he's cheered at that event. So it's very much relevant to what's going on because now these worlds are crossing, where at one point we were told, stick to what you know, basically. Now, we've only got a couple minutes left, but why I love sports number 15, and again, thank you, Mike Fruitman, for giving me this idea for this segment. I'm going to go back to LeBron James. I've been hard on him because of the China thing for sure, and he deserves it. He chose money over principle. And he doesn't know as much of the details, just like we don't know much of the details. But what he's doing with his school and what he's doing now as he adds transitional housing to his I Promise school for at-risk families is amazing work. He's got the means, he's got the connections, he's got the partnerships. He's providing a situation for these families and for these kids that is real. And just like LeBron James, until next time, you know how we do. Just be real.